Hey, welcome everyone. It's about 12 noon, little lunch and learn. I called it a lunch and invest. And I think we should get started. We got a good amount of people on the call today. I want to welcome all of you. I'm Christopher Hummel, Smart Home Choice. I'll introduce the team in a moment. And I think we got something really special, really great actually, something we haven't done before, a nice lunch and learn. And this is, again, the first time that we're doing this, and I really hope for some feedback, and perhaps we can do something like this again. So why don't we get started then? Number one, as I said, I wanted to welcome all of you, and before we start, if you would, some of you guys might still not have yourselves on mute. If you would, just make sure you mute yourselves. There'll be time for questions anyways, and you can always put them in the chat box, and you can ask your questions, and we'll get to them a little bit later. So if you would, we'll probably be on the call for about 45 minutes or so. It gives you a good amount of time to grab something to eat after. You know, listen, you can eat actually at your desk, I suppose. And as I said, questions towards the end. Feedback would be fantastic as well. But again, 45 minutes, turn your cell phones down, maybe put the work aside, because really, I think this is going to be exciting for a lot of you guys. So with that in mind, do I have Morgan and David? You guys on the call?
We're here. Morgan's here.
All right, beautiful guys. All right, fantastic. Gary, you there?
I am here. I'm here. I'm actually excited about this one.
Looks good stuff. Yeah, I know. This is a great idea, Gary. I appreciate. I think it makes a lot of sense to do this. Okay, so we're here with the, I don't know, should we call you master planners?
Just planners.
You guys are so humble. I love it. All right. Morgan and David, you guys are planners at the city of Oshawa, and you guys have your hands in quite a lot of things. You oversee quite a lot of things, I believe. You'll tell us a little bit more about what it is that you guys do throughout your time with us. But before we get into it, I just wanted to introduce us, the team, and what it is that we do for some of you guys that are just joining for the first time. So we're Smart Home Choice, and what we do is we try to provide education, guidance, coaching for a lot of you real estate investors out there in and around the Durham region, and we go a little bit further out as well. All right, so let's introduce Gary Herbert's on the call. I'm Chris Hummel. Quentin Cordick, you guys are familiar with him, and Darlene Hibbert as well, who works on our financing for a lot of you investors. But I would love to introduce, if I can get this thing going here, would love to introduce Kathy DeTorres to the team as well. She is new to the fold, but she's been investing for quite some time, so you guys will start hearing her name. So things that we do. Property tours. Well, we just recently had a property. Look at those excited faces. Look at those excited investors. Property tour. We did this, 2 weeks ago, and we actually took you through properties that were currently being converted into 2 units. So some of these were not even rented yet. They were still just putting the finishing touches on them. You had the opportunities to speak to the contractor. We brought out the property manager, and of course the investor themselves to talk to you about their experience through the whole thing and what they expect, what their expectations are. We were all there as well to help coordinate everything and to go through with you. But look at all those faces. So we're going to be doing another property tour in the Durham region. We're going to be doing that on the 18th of May. That's a Saturday. Make sure you sign up for that. You can go onto the website smarthomechoice.ca under events, or you can contact us directly. It's always a lot of fun. We definitely want you guys to come out and learn with us. And we'll show you some properties that you can invest in as well. Gary's been doing this for a long time, but I believe now you are currently on iTunes, which is fantastic. Gary's wealth, health, and everything in between. All right, so catch up with Gary on his podcast. This time he's going to be interviewing Kathleen Black. I don't know if I say interviewing, talking to Kathleen Black. Basically, what he's trying to help you do is get to the next level of success. So sign in and listen for that. All right. So without further ado, really, we want to talk to you guys about the new developments that are happening in Oshawa proper. Lots of things going on, a lot of excitement. I think you guys can get a lot of really good information, a good kick out of this. And so I'd love to pass it over to you guys, Morgan and David. Morgan Jones, senior planner, and David Sappleton, principal planner with the city of Oshawa. And last but not least, again, if you want to get in contact with any of us, we're local. You guys can reach out to us at any time. So you guys ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Beautiful. All right, here we go.
All right, and just one thing for everybody that's on the call as well too. If you guys do have any questions, again, just kind of keep yourselves on mute for the time being, and then we'll open it up at the end. But if you have questions, you can also just put them in the chat box, and I'll keep an eye at them, and we'll try to get through all those questions as well at the end with our presenters this evening, or this. I always say this evening, but it's actually this afternoon. All right, cool. All right, you guys are on stage. Got it.
All right. Good stuff. So you guys have control. Hopefully everybody can see. Yep. Gary, you can see the screen?
Can everyone see the presentation?
I can. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, great. Thanks, guys. You're up.
Well, thank you for the introductions. Yeah, again, my name is Morgan Jones, senior planner in the development planning side of our planning services branch. And then there's David Sappleton here, principal planner, again, in the development and urban design side of planning services. We've both been with Oshawa for 9 years working here, and we're also both proud graduates of Ryerson University. So with that background, today's presentation is really to give the investor group an idea of the current development projects in Oshawa. So either those that are planned or those that are under construction. And in addition to that, we wanted to give the group some background on some other initiatives that are planned here at the city as well, to let you know about future planning. So Oshawa at a glance, we're a fast growing community. We grew 13.5% in population from 2011 to 2018. So that went from 150,000 residents to 170,000. So those people coming here, they're either looking for a place to live, a place to work, or a place to live and work. Oshawa had the highest 2017 GDP growth in Ontario, which was 4.1%, and that was a 15-year record rate of growth. Oshawa has added over 2,700 new net jobs in 2017, and had a growth rate of 4%. So we have a lot of different projects on the go that are aiming to fill those jobs or fill places for people to live, either by purchasing or renting.
I'm going to try to go to the next slide. I don't know why it won't go.
So this is a planned area of development in our north end, what planners would call greenfield development, former farms or large rural properties that go through a planning process to end up to be subdivided and have homes and commercial businesses, schools, parks, other community uses built. So this is Kedron. This is in the north end. It's south of the 407. It abuts town line to the east, which is our border with municipality of Clarington. Currently, we have 11 subdivisions up here. It's planned to accommodate about 22,000 people. The advancement of these development applications, they're in different stages. Some are approved, and the subdividers are working through detail engineering and design, major earthworks and site alteration to get things prepped for development. Others are behind that, still seeking planning approvals, whether subdivision or zoning. And then there are some that haven't come to the table. Essentially, we're looking to grow from the south to the north, which is our typical type of development pattern. So The first developments would proceed from Common Road, which you can see on the south, and then work their way north. The next area we're talking about is another new planned area, which is Columbus. This is north of Highway 407, on Simcoe Street, essentially. There are some other side roads, but to give you an idea, it's Simcoe and 407. So this is a planned future development opportunity where Kedron's in place and people are working through planning approvals. This is at the initial stages where the city is working with landowners and other consultants to do the larger studies necessary to then bring about and implement the official plan, which would then allow those development applications to come in order for development to proceed. So this is a longer horizon, sort of 5 to 10 years, but there are a lot of rural properties up here. The benefits to the community in the long run would be services would be brought up here. Currently it's on septic and well, but eventually, you know, water and sanitary and everything would be brought up here as well, and there'd be a big development, but it's a longer term play. The next area we're looking at is an industrial area that we call Northwood. This is south of the 407. The west side of it abuts our municipal border with the town of Whitby. And then the south end of this area is Taunton Road, or abutting the Oshawa Airport, if that gives everyone some reference. So this is an area where we're looking to have a mix of light industrial, light manufacturing, and sort of commercial or corporate type offices permitted here. We have some active development applications because there is a portion of the area currently serviced and able to develop. That area would be on Thornton Road, between Common Road and Taunton Road. The other areas are not serviced yet, but those services are scheduled to come in a time frame. You know, it's a longer term thing for those services to come, but they will eventually be there, and when they are, there'll be opportunities for people to develop. We do have an existing development at the south end, which is condominium development, or an industrial mall, however you want to phrase it, where there is an opportunity for a business owner or investor to buy a condominium unit and then either use it for themselves or rent it out to someone. So that's an interesting little development.
So we're going to overview some current development activity across the city. And it's not just all in the north end, it's in downtown, it's in the south end, it's in everything in between. So the city of Oshawa had $427 million worth of construction value last year. 3/4 of that was in the residential sector. Permits were issued for over 1,200 new residential dwellings in 2018 alone. Tribute communities, they account for a big chunk of that. But there is a lot of infill development, and there's a lot of other smaller builders as well. There's a number of subdivisions that are expected to be registered in 2019, which would account for 560 new dwellings, and then we expect there's another 2,500 potential multi-unit residential developments that will start in 2019. So that could include apartment buildings, retirement homes, and townhouses. So we'll just run through some projects in different parts of the city that might be worthwhile of noting. This first one here is a brand new student apartment building at 1900 Simcoe Street North. It was actually marketed, it is a condominium, it's registered as a condominium, and people could purchase these units. They marketed them as investment units so that you can buy one and you're part of a pool, or you're part of a network where people can rent them out to students on their own, or you can put it in the pool and the management company manages the renting of the units to students. So student housing market has been pretty good because the students are always going to be there. They're always going to need the services that are in the building. So it's an opportunity that this company, Podium Developments, has really jumped on, and this was actually their 4th building. This building actually has mixed use in it. So it has a Starbucks, a Domino's Pizza, and an Osmos. And just running down the street, Podium is also doing another project here at 1720 to 1800. This one they're marketing as, they call it university towns. And again, you can purchase a unit there, and it's part of a pool where it's rented out on your behalf, or you can rent it to yourself, or you can take it off the market, and your child can go there and live there and go to school nearby. But this one will be 112 stacked townhouses and 58 apartments with just under 600 square meters of commercial floor space. Probably going to be restaurants, just like the other building, because students like to eat. This is a rendering of what it will look like. It should be open this summer, so you'll be able to see it yourself on Simcoe Street North near the university. And then Podium just keeps building up in this area. This is actually, this is not for students, but it is another condominium project at 1569 Simcoe Street North. It's 125 block townhouses just further south of the university near the Oshawa Creek. It will be a quite dense project, but there will be a lot of green space in behind. That is part of the common elements of the condominium that's owned and maintained by the condo. And I think their sales office is open at 1700 Simcoe Street North already. Greywood Developments, they plan to open a sales office on Philip Murray near Park Road this spring for their townhouses at that same corner, 56 block townhouse units. These are common element condominiums, and this project receives a lot of publicity the last few years, mainly because it's associated with Greywood's other project down by the waterfront, which is not approved and is being dealt with at the board right now as we speak over the next year. They are across from Philip Murray is General Motors plant, and we when we were dealing with this subdivision, the developer had to do studies demonstrating that they were compatible with the adjacent General Motors plant. We actually sat down a number of times with GM to work out the issues. So at the sales office, when you're buying a unit, you will know that you are next to GM and all of their activities. And there's actually features built into the townhouses to ensure that they comply with noise requirements and other types of requirements, being close to an industrial facility.
The next project we'll highlight here is a townhouse project by Daniels Group. It's for 36 stacked townhouses and 32 back-to-back townhouses. This is at the corner of Ritson Road North and Coldstream Avenue, sort of in an existing built-up area in the north end, or sort of north central end of Oshawa. The reason we highlight this project is, Daniels Group is a big developer from Toronto and the GTA. And sometimes, from time to time, we have developers come to Oshawa, or we try to get them to Oshawa through economic development, and they say, we're not interested in Oshawa, it's too far afield, or we don't do that type of development, it won't work in Oshawa, whatever they say. But over the last 5 years, we've seen a lot of developers come out here and build product that they previously thought wouldn't work. And in fact, when they go to market and build it, they get a lot of good feedback. So it seems like that has turned, and we're getting a lot of different projects with a lot of different types of residential development by a lot of different companies previously weren't here. So that's good news for the city as a whole. That'll be condominium tenure as well. I don't know what restrictions they'll have on it, but usually with condominium tenure, it's open for purchase by anyone, and then they can either live in it or rent it out. The next project is down on Bloor Street. This is close to Wilson Road and Bloor Street. Generally, we're south of the 401 here. So older existing areas, there's a mix of uses. There's a rail line to the south of this project, and industrial south of that. And then with this project in north, between itself and the 401, it's basically older residential mix of single family homes, apartments as well. This project is planned to do 140 stacked townhouses and back-to-back form. So somebody would have a first floor and a second, and then there'd be stairs to the third and the fourth. Condominium tenure is what they're like to do. It's in the planning process, nothing's final or approved. But again, the idea would be that there are units available to be purchased. These would be standard units where you buy the walls and then everything outside is either, common or exclusive use areas for residents. So it's a good project. Just wanted to highlight, that there are areas of the city that are existing, more centrally located, not in the north, not new greenfield, where we're seeing infill development, people willing to take on projects and then, having success building them or selling them. Also on Bloor Street, it's a photo pretty current, I think it was taken today or yesterday, of a 4-story apartment building with 14 rental units in it. This is just, again, and this is over near Park Road on Bloor Street. So again, south of the 401, this would be west of Simcoe Street. Just again to highlight to the group that people are picking up underutilized parcels. I believe there was a home here, or maybe 2 homes, and or it was even vacant, and they pick it up and they say, well, it's underutilized right now, so let's do something bigger and better. So here's a sort of a mid-scale project, all rental, where the owner will either hold on to it and rent them out, or sell the entire project, and then someone else would rent it out. So just want to highlight that we're seeing a few different projects happen in areas that we previously didn't see a lot of movement in, but we have over the last 3 to 5 years. Accessory apartments. So from the lead in there, it seems like accessory apartments, renovations of homes, and then maybe splitting them to 2 units, whether that's new build or conversion, seems to be a big interest for your group. So background is Oshawa passed city-initiated amendments to our zoning and official plan in 2014, so that's 5 years ago. Basically, citywide, we permitted accessory apartments in any single detached or semi-detached house, subject to certain regulations, being a certain size of lot and provision of an additional parking space. The only areas excluded from that were up near the university, which David had highlighted earlier. We have a lot of purpose-built student rental or owned buildings up there in the main corridor. We did not want them to be feeding off into the smaller residential areas that had been an issue before. So when the bylaw passed, it excluded a lot of areas around there. So your group should just be aware of it. It's on our zoning maps. If you need to know what areas to look at and what areas to stay away from, we could happily provide that to you after the fact. And we've had 120 accessory apartments in 2018. So those are either new builds making 2 units, or people, homeowners or others, buying a house and making an accessory apartment. So we've seen a lot of success there, and it seems to be a way for people to add units, use existing services, and then either use those units for family members or as rental. There's no restrictions on that other than zoning, and then obviously we have a licensing and building permit process, which is standard for any municipality.
So just to add one more thing, when we passed the bylaw in 2014, we did an estimate, and there was over 26,000 possible properties in Oshawa that could accommodate an accessory apartment. So obviously all of those aren't going to happen, and but we are seeing more and more uptake to make them happen. Like Morgan said, we had 119 just in 2018 in terms of building permits, at least. So it is an excellent opportunity to, as you guys know, to have extra income, accommodate people, and it's part of the province's housing affordability action plan. Really, that's where it really came out of, so that we can create more housing units and less space that people can actually afford. So yeah. I'll carry on with some more development activity. This is a building at 99 Thornton Road South, so just south of King Street. It's associated with Trent University's facility there. This will have 200 dorm beds for students, as well as some facilities for the university, such as classrooms and other things that they need. So we'll have 15 classrooms, 200 beds, and it will be 5 stories in height. And I believe they expect to start construction this year. This is Tribute Communities UC Tower. They call it UC Tower, up at 2535 Thoroughbred Street. It's on Simcoe Street, basically just south of Winchester, and that in the Winfields community. It's a 25-story tower, a condominium tower that Tribute is planning to build. And our understanding is that they've had a lot of success in marketing this building. Has a mix of, I believe, studios, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. But they've had a lot of success marketing it. A lot of the developers will tell us they don't think they can sell high-rise in Oshawa. Well, this is a high-rise in North Oshawa, basically in a greenfield area, at the edge of the greenfield area. So that's a bright spot. We'd like to see some more of that when we say in these areas we want high-density development in these certain locations. High density comes in different forms. It comes in apartment buildings, this height. It also comes in smaller, compact projects like stacked townhouses. We're looking to see some more high density stuff being marketable in newer parts of the city. So it's not all residential growth. We do have industrial growth and commercial growth. Panattoni is an international industrial builder, and they have 2 sites in South Oshawa at Thornton and Wentworth, where they are planning to build approximately 1 million square feet of industrial warehouse speculative space. The first 2 projects will probably start very soon at about 600,000 square feet, and then another building either later this year or next year. So they bought up 2 properties at roughly similar times and are planning to open them all up pretty soon. So that to us is really exciting. It's going to be a real breakthrough for Oshawa into the logistics and distribution center type of industry that we see a lot of in other places, particularly around the airport. But with new highways in part of the world and access to 401, it's really great. And it's also near other industries such as GM. It's just west of GM actually. So we are seeing activity. We're glad to see them take up these lands in South Oshawa.
Yeah, as David said, it's not all residential. We see industrial and commercial as well. So this is a planned power center, for lack of a better word, by RioCan. This would be up in the north end near Simcoe and Winchester, right about where that tower was just described as, which is also south of the 407. So Simcoe has an on and off ramp to the 407. So I think that's kind of something to mention. We'll show some mapping of that at the end of the presentation. So they're looking at about 1.2 million square feet. It's been a lot of rumors that there was sort of a mega mall coming to this area. It's not true. They're doing a power center. They're going to do some things a little differently, or we're trying to work with them to do some things a little differently, create more of a sort of pedestrian friendly, more sort of small scale looking shops, especially on the main streets, and then have the larger power center buildings, chains, whether that's Home Depot or Walmart, sort of off the back of those things. So we're trying to do something a little different here, create more of a community, because we have a lot of planned residential around. So we'd like something walkable at a human scale, and then perhaps the larger businesses sort of off the back. So it's a big project though, construction's estimated to be worth about $20 million. So
Just on one side of Simcoe.
Correct. Yeah.
20 million on one side and probably another 20 million or more actually on the other side of Simcoe. So it's going to be a big area. We've been planning for this for over 20 years, or roughly 20 years. RioCan came forward 10 years ago and got approval. So time is now when they're starting. So we'll see when they open up.
And it's often what we see. We highlighted a lot of the residential development that's in there and built or going to be built. So it's pretty common that they kind of want the people there and then open up, the commercial businesses. So timing is everything, and in this case, it seems to be consistent with other areas of the city where we've seen that same type of order occur. Next, we're going to jump to downtown Oshawa. This is a focus, I think, for the city from a number of different departments and politically and just all over. So, we've done a lot of changes to official plan and zoning to encourage residential development in the downtown. And then our economic development works hard with the existing businesses or new businesses in terms of bringing commercial retail development to the city. So from planning perspective, we're seeing a lot of take up. Again, developments that previously groups had said that doesn't happen in Oshawa, that isn't built in Oshawa, whether that's a high-rise residential, we're seeing people do it now. They're building them, they're here physically now, open, and there are more planned. So, the province's changes to the growth plan saying Oshawa downtown is a growth center, and then the city and the region implementing official plan policies and zoning to say we are, and here's some densities that you're allowed, here's some heights you're allowed, has definitely spurred on a lot of growth in the downtown, and there's more to come. There is a CIP for the downtown. That's a community improvement plan. So that community improvement plan, subject to proper approvals, gives a developer either picking up a property and renovating it and converting it commercial or adding residential, gives them some incentives to those renovations in terms of the facade or some of the interior renovations in terms of electrical and building code. And then again, if somebody was looking to develop, from the ground up and get rid of the building, we have some incentives there as well. There are development charge exemptions for the city's portion. So those are sort of the levies. And there are also some incentives in terms of tax deferrals, for lack of a better word, where essentially when somebody builds a new project, let's say a 10-story residential building where previously had nothing or something underutilized, the taxes skyrocket, obviously based on being assessed at 10 stories and 100 units, for instance. What the city can allow with the right approvals is a deferral of the taxes for a portion of time over 10 years. So what would happen is the taxes would get assessed at the 100% new rate, but the taxes due or to be paid for that first year would only be 10% of those taxes. And then 20 in year 2 and 30 in year 3. Eventually you get to year 10 and you pay 100%. The approach is that it lets somebody develop, it lets them get the building fully occupied, and lets them gain rents for a number of years before having to pay the full amount of taxes. So we've seen it be very successful for a lot of developments, and we've had a lot of positive feedback.
So I'm just going to run through these downtown projects. I think we want to open up to questions soon, but we have a lot of developments downtown that people should be excited about, that our downtown is filling in. So this is a project on Athol Street East right here at 161. They are under construction right now. It's for student housing basically, but it's next to the university, the university's downtown campus. Medallion Corporation has a project downtown at the former fitting site off of Bruce Street. They plan here for 2,100 apartments and almost 100 townhouses. So the first phase was approved, which included how many? 509 apartments. So it's a 10-story building, and Medallion's a big company, and they'll do it in phases. It's a big project, so it will really help fill in our downtown. Atria Developments is moving forward with their project at 80 Bond Street at the corner of Mary Street. It's a 21-story project with condominium and rental apartments in the same building. And they also have another project across the street, across Mary on Richmond Street. These are two 18-story towers with 600 apartments and commercial on the ground floor. So you can see how our downtown is filling in there.
Yeah, and then moving just south of downtown, this would be north of the 401, between Ritson Road and the Oshawa Creek to the west, and then John Street to the north. This is a mobility hub or transit hub, which is the red line you see on the periphery. The red line and hatching in the right center is the area that is currently owned by Metrolinx for a planned future GO station. I know there's a sort of town hall open meeting in Whitby tomorrow to discuss the GO projects coming out to Oshawa, because there were some announcements by the provincial government a week or two ago, and there wasn't much said about GO or provincial projects sort of outside of Toronto proper seem to be the focus. So I think GO and the municipalities in the region are getting the public out with those groups to have a discussion about what their plans may be. But in terms of this particular project, the idea is that it would bring the GO train from the lakeshore up through Oshawa using existing rail lines owned by Canadian Pacific Railway. And there's a number of things they have to do, but they've done the environmental assessment. They've acquired lands through expropriation. So, the next steps essentially are taking it to a design stage with funding that they need, which again, there wasn't much announcements on that. So we'll have to stay tuned. We're positive, we're hopeful, because obviously it would be a huge boost to an area that would really benefit from it a lot. You don't need to be a planner to see you have some type of infrastructure come, highway, airport, train, anything, and then what happens around it? Development. So for us, it's win-win. It's just, when's it going to happen? Wanted to bring up for the group that in this area, there's a lot of different housing options that are there. Houses, 1 unit, 2 units, small rise apartments. The zoning around the entire area now, not even what we might plan to have it be in the future. Right now, it allows 2 units through this whole area, right? Roughly. And so there's a lot of opportunity here, either currently or obviously with the idea that there would hopefully be a GO station come to that area, which would obviously spur development quite a lot. We don't have any timing on it. The announcements have always been sort of 2024, so which is the provincial announcements. So that's what we hear. So that's kind of all we know about it. We wanted to bring up the 407. It seemed to be a topic that wanted to be mentioned. So the 407 is currently in place in the north end of Oshawa. We have an on-ramp and off ramp at Simcoe Street and Harmony Road. And that is where the 407 ends right now at Harmony Road. It's planned to go all the way over to the 115. Which connects the 401 to Peterborough and sort of cottage country to the north. And that phase is, I'm not sure exactly when it's scheduled to be done. 2020 is kind of what I'm hearing. They're big projects. When they came to Oshawa, it was delayed a little bit as well. So, I think when you're building something so big, there's usually delays. Let's hope they meet it. But anyway, in terms of Oshawa proper, we're open. We have 2 existing on and off ramps at Harmony and Simcoe. People can jump on and off right now and go. It's fully opened. We have a planned 3rd on and off ramp at Thornton, which was near that industrial area I mentioned earlier. So, it's there and it's operating right now. And as we highlighted before, there's a lot of projects in the north end that are right around this area that will be, probably using that highway quite heavily. Couple final items here. City initiated amendments. Just wanted to mention everyone, every year Oshawa does city initiated amendments. They vary in terms of their subject, but every year we do them on an annual basis. The idea is to keep the zoning bylaw and other documents such as an official plan updated or more user-friendly. couple I wanted to highlight here is a city initiative amendment to the zoning for a portion of Bloor Street. So most of Bloor Street, as we highlighted before, is developing already. It's got a lot of zoning that allows a lot of development types. This was an area of Bloor Street that did not, between Wilson and Farewell, south of the 401. That was really R2 zoning, kind of 1-2 units max, but they're big properties, and obviously it's an intensification area for the city. So we're coming along and saying, you know, our official plan encourages development here. Let's change our zoning. We don't need to wait for people to do it privately, one at a time. We can do it overall and then encourage intensification. So this is a proposed amendment. We're going to a public meeting on May 27th. If anyone needs any information, happily have my contact info and I can put you in touch with it all. And another amendment here is Simcoe Street South Community Improvement Plan. We talked about the one in the downtown that allows a lot of incentives. This is an area between the 401 and the downtown along Simcoe Street. The map there shows you the area. Right now, all that's available to an owner is a facade loan improvement grant, just to sort of, you know, beautify the property. What we're proposing is bringing a lot of other incentives, some of the ones I talked about earlier, where, you know, you'll be given potentially a grant subject to approval to undertake development, bigger development, or retrofit a building and add residential or other things to it. So essentially the idea is just to bring some incentives that are available in a lot of other community improvement plans to the Simcoe Street South Community Improvement Plan. That's 2 amendments. There are 20 others on there. I'm not going through them all, but I think I just wanted to highlight, you know, it's an annual thing. Your group might want to, you know, keep an eye on these amendments because things do change, and then obviously that brings about opportunity for people. Last is want to highlight our economic development department. They have a tour of growth. This is a webpage available. So what David and I have summarized is just a little piece of the pie. We want to highlight some projects, overall city, commercial, residential, industrial, from the north end to the south end, to let you know the development's happening, you know, across the city as a whole, and it varies by form. Economic development gets information from planning on a regular basis, and they update their website. And the website has links to each of the projects we mentioned and many others, where you can jump on it at any time and see what's currently going on. It's citywide by area. So you may have an area you're looking to invest in. You would click on the area. It's going to tell you about all the projects underway, either and what their stage is at. So we found it to be a very useful tool and something that your group would be interested in reviewing, you know, on a consistent basis. And with that, we'll happily turn the meeting back over to the organizer, and we're happy to answer any questions that have been raised so far.
Wow, guys, that was fantastic. I mean, I think you guys went above and beyond what we had initially requested. And I think with the amount of attendees on this Lunch and Learn, I mean, Lunch and Invest, if you want, actually, I think, you know, I don't know, Gary, what about you, but it far surpassed even my expectations. So I want to thank you guys for doing this for us.
No, it's great. It was great. Thank you very much. It's good to get a good high level bird's eye overview of what's happening in Oshawa, right? And I think you guys definitely accomplished that this afternoon. So thank you.
Yeah.
And we do have a few questions here. So why don't we maybe kind of jump into that, unless you have anything else you need to add first, Chris?
Nope, it's perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so look, Kathleen was asking about the rental licensing zone up by the university. Any changes expected over there, do you know?
I don't think so. I think they expanded it a few years ago to account for the new development areas. And I don't see them, as far as, we don't manage that or deal with that, but I don't see them shrinking that anytime soon. Those were put in for a few key reasons, kind of to focus development in targeted areas, as opposed to allowing you know, students to live too densely in the housing areas, which would take away from a lot of the projects on the you know, in the Simcoe Street corridor. So I don't think that they're going to change that anytime soon, as long as students are still looking for housing in a very broad area around the campus. That I don't think that's going to change. But you would want to talk to the municipal licensing and standards more about that specific question.
Okay. We got Greg who was asking about the square footage of the residential versus the commercial units for that RioCan build up north. You guys have any ideas about that?
For RioCan, I think the commercial is like 1.2 million square feet.
That's all commercial.
That's all commercial. The residential development around it, you know, yeah, they're townhouses. They vary. Some of them are block townhouses where you have like a 4-story walk up. Others are, as David highlighted, like, you know, a larger apartment building where obviously there's units on each floor and there's a, you know, elevator that takes you up. Any of them, and then the Simcoe Street corridor, any of them that are available for sale, you know, I think you'll find stuff online from the developers. But the unit sizes vary, both commercial and residential. So it really depends on, you know, what they'd be looking for, right? There's always smaller units available, both commercially and residentially, and then there's bigger units available. Commercially, they go huge, right? If you're a huge group like Walmart or Home Depot, you know, they don't put a restriction, right? They're like, how big of a plot do you need? We got it ready for your building. The residential is a little different, right? There's sort of only a max size. I think as David highlighted in that multi-unit building for Tribute, I think their 3-bed is about 800 square feet. So, and then their bachelors are about 300 to 400. So it just depends on each project. But I think once they're at the marketing stage, it'd be best for your group to jump online, check out the website, maybe go to the sales office and get some more info on the unit sizes and see if there's something that you would like.
Sure. Okay. Now, Kathleen was asking, and some of us already have an idea about this. There's going to be 1 or 2 GO stations that are proposed, of course, in Oshawa.
There's one now, and there would be 2 more. So we didn't mention it, but there will be another state. I don't think we mentioned it, but there will be another station at Thornton and Gibbs Street, which Metrolinx would call Thornton Corners, and then the other one that Morgan highlighted, which was at Central Oshawa, which is the old Knockhill Farm site. So those would be 2 stations on an extension out to Bowmanville. So you'd also have one in Curtis, actually. And then the existing station off Bloor Street, that is not, my understanding is that's not expected to leave. What Metrolinx would do is they would run, if they electrify the Lakeshore East line, they would run the electrified trains to the existing Oshawa station on an all-day 2-way basis, but the rush hour service would be the extension out to Bowmanville. So I think those would continue to be diesel trains, which would only run during rush hour. So those details are still to be worked out, but you would essentially have 3 operational GO stations just within the city of Oshawa.
Right.
And sorry, and when is that meeting again? I know you had mentioned it, and if anybody's interested in attending that, is there a link or website that we can go?
I saw it on our website this morning. I think it's in Whitby. I forget the location.
It's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. in Whitby. I think it's at the Ability Center.
Yes.
Okay.
It's off Victoria Street. So they actually have all the bigwigs there if you have questions about just go service in general.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts about the waterfront or this marina?
It's a work in progress, basically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of high-level discussions with the feds on a lot of different things there. In terms of development, there's lands north of Harbor Road, which we're always dealing with whoever is coming forward to do a project there, which will be new housing. But we own the land south of Harbor Road on the east side of Simcoe, and I think that's open now as passive recreation, so you can go down there and have a picnic. But any more programming of the marina, we did do a kind of an RFP to see who would be interested in operating marina, and I'm not sure if that worked out. But we still have a lot of interest in marina there, and just growth in that area. Yes.
Yeah, the RFP, they put it out a year ago. We had a lot of advertisement. They had a few groups come forward, but then they didn't, secure any of them for a variety of reasons. The only development we have down there now is for a cell phone tower, looking to locate down there. So it's not a lot of activity,
And there's no rush. I mean, we have to do things right, and there was some cleanup that we had to do of certain lands, and there's a lot of studies for the depth of water actually within the marinas. So there's a lot of things that need to be done and paid for, but I think it is still the city's interested to have a marina there. And now with the Oshawa Port Authority merging with the Hamilton Port Authority, there's a lot of discussions related to that as well, as where the control is of the Port Authority's lands. So there's so many things you have to balance, and interests we have to balance, and we're dealing with the feds on a lot of different things. So we do want there to be a marina, and I think that's the official word from council. But I don't know how full speed ahead they're going on getting that done at this moment.
Okay.
Politics, right?
Politics, right. Well, okay, so guys, we only have time maybe for a few more questions because we are getting near 1 o'clock. But I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on GM. And I know this really isn't your affair too much, but any thoughts about GM and the plant, whether they leave or they don't leave? And if they do leave, any thoughts of what might become of the plant?
We don't know much more than what you guys know, but we continue to talk to GM and with the province. So, but in terms of the lands and the plants, those lands are extremely valuable as lands, no matter who owns it. And GM has a lot of different lands. So if they put their lands on the market or they sell or whatever, it's still an excellent opportunity for a new industry or a new company to move in there. There's even lands that aren't necessarily built with any buildings or anything. They're just parking lots for so much of their operations. So even those land, all you have to do is, it's a fresh slate for a lot of those lands, and they are zoned for general industrial, which is a broad range of uses. So if GM puts those lands out there for someone to purchase, I think we'll see a lot of interest. Because there is not a lot of large parcels of land that are zone GI that are available for development, because GM has owned so much of it. So, that is a bright spot, but first step is GM putting those out on the market. That's as much as we know in that regards, but we have great leadership here who's working on a lot of different things as to what we can do, get new companies in there.
Yeah. As we had in the presentation, like, there are projects happening around it, right? Even with the announcements, right, that are out there. So you have other industrial developments going to build. You have residential going to build. So as David pointed out, the position is keep them here, keep the dialogue going, and all the higher up people are doing that. So we'll let those people work hard at that. And that's kind of what we know. But as David pointed out, the size of the land and its strategic location, like, you got to think about 401, rail spurs directly into the properties. You have the harbor not far by. So, as David said, if for some reason it doesn't, and years go by and they're gone, as planners, with the zoning that's there and those pieces of infrastructure, never mind all the local roads around, somebody's going to see it as an opportunity, right? It's going to be, it's going to be sad for some people, but someone else is going to jump on it going, well, this is great. This is exactly the type of property we were looking for 5 years, and we're here to build. So that's about all we have to say.
Yeah, that's great. And I think so. To kind of summarize it, I mean, what you're saying is that if they stay, great, there's still going to be jobs there. But if they leave and somebody else comes in, I mean, they can turn that plan around and maybe potentially get it back up to GM in its glory days when they had maybe 25, 30,000 people employed there.
Exactly. You've got all the options. Somebody redeveloping, or as you've just pointed out, maybe there's another company that comes along and does cars or automotive related, and they look at it and they go, this is excellent. This is set up, ready to go. And so it's all unknowns, right? For us and yourself, it's all unknowns, really, politically, provincially, here at the city and GM corporately, they're all having discussions, and, everyone's got their position. We'll let them work it out, and then whenever they're ready, they'll make announcements, as you know, right? So we'll just everyone stay tuned.
All right, beautiful.
Yeah, I think. There's a lot more questions, but I think we've exhausted the time. So, guys, once again, I want to thank you very much for coming out and helping us out here and giving us some information. With the amount of people that we had, obviously this information was really necessary. A lot of people were looking for it and very valuable. Absolutely. So much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.
All right, yeah, I think we're out of time.
And one last thing before we wrap it up, just for anybody that jumped on the call a little bit later, or kind of like in between, or as the meeting was going on, is Chris had mentioned that we do have a Oshawa property tour that we're going to be doing on May the 18th. Now those things do sell out pretty quickly, so if you're interested, please sign up. You can go to our website. You can find the link there. And the good thing with that tour is that we're not only looking at properties that are available on the market, but we're also going into a couple of our investors' properties that they are in the process of converting their properties into legal 2 units. Okay, so you'll definitely want. It's a great idea to kind of jump on that and see what your peers are doing. So that's on May the 18th. All right. All right, Chris. Anything?
Beautiful.
Else?
And I think we're good, man. Golden.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks to all of you guys on the call, by the way. Appreciate you guys taking the time. And with that, I think we're out.
All right, great.
Excellent.
Dave, Morgan,
have a great
thank you guys very much. Fantastic.
Yep, you're welcome. Thanks. Bye for now.
All right.
Bye.